Yo, what's up world? It's Explode with Trevor Noah. Racism exists, right? It's like that annoying house guest who won't leave. Today we're diving into countries where black people face the worst discrimination. And it's not just the usual suspects. We're talking about places where black people deal with extreme prejudice. From police targeting to street violence, the reality is bleak. So buckle up, we're exposing the ugly truth about racism today. You might be surprised by what you learn. Libya, home to ancient ruins, beautiful coastlines, and sadly a whole lot of danger for black people. See, after Gaddafi was overthrown, Libya became a hub for human trafficking. And guess who became the primary targets? You got it, black migrants, especially those from sub-Saharan Africa. We're talking about people risking their lives to escape poverty and conflict only to be captured, sold into slavery or worse. Imagine being so desperate for a better life that you risk everything, only to end up in modern day slavery. It's a heartbreaking reality that exposes the dark underbelly of a country struggling to find its footing. Next up, we're heading east to China, the land of dragons, dumplings, and apparently a whole lot of prejudice against black people. Now, China doesn't have a huge black population, but that hasn't stopped them from experiencing some serious racism. Remember the COVID-19 outbreak? Well, Africans in China, especially Nigerians, became scapegoats. They were evicted from their homes, denied service in stores, and even accused of spreading the virus. Imagine being blamed for a global pandemic just because of the color of your skin. It's like something out of a dystopian novel, but sadly, it was all too real for black people in China. From China, we travel north to Russia, a country known for its vodka, its winters, and sadly its history of racism against black people. Now, Russia might not be the first place that comes to mind when you think of racism, but trust me, it's there. Black people, especially students and migrants, workers from Africa, are often targeted by racist attacks, both verbal and physical. Imagine walking down the street and being afraid of getting jumped just because of the color of your skin. That's the reality for many black people in Russia, and it's a stark reminder that racism knows no borders. Chapter 4. Italy, when La Dolce Vita turns sour. Next, we're off to Italy, the land of pizza, pasta, and unfortunately, a growing wave of anti-black racism. You see, Italy has become a major entry point for migrants coming from Africa, and that's led to a rise in xenophobia and racism. Black migrants are often portrayed as criminals and a threat to Italian culture, and they face discrimination in housing, employment, and even access to healthcare. Imagine risking your life to cross the Mediterranean only to be met with hostility and hatred. It's a tragic reminder that even in a country known for its beauty and romance, racism can rear its ugly head. Chapter 5, Greece, Ancient History, Modern Prejudice. From Italy, we hop over to Greece, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and sadly a hotbed of racism against black people. Greece, like Italy, has seen a surge in migrants arriving from Africa, and that's led to increased tensions and violence. Black migrants and refugees often find themselves living in overcrowded camps where they face discrimination, abuse, and even attacks from far-right groups. Imagine fleeing war and persecution only to end up in a place where you're treated like an animal. It's a stark reminder that even in the cradle of civilization, racism continues to cast a long shadow. Chapter 6. Saudi Arabia behind the veil of oil and religion. Hold on tight, folks, because we're heading to Saudi Arabia, known for its oil reserves and strict religious laws. Despite its wealth, migrant workers face exploitation, abuse, and discrimination. They're treated like second-class citizens, denied basic rights. Imagine being treated like a modern-day slave, your passport confiscated. It's a stark reminder that even today, slavery still exists. From the deserts of Saudi Arabia, we're traveling to Japan, the land of sushi, samurai, and a surprising amount of prejudice against black people. Now, Japan might be famous for its technological advancements and unique culture, but it's also a country where black people often face subtle yet pervasive racism. We're talking about everything from being denied apartments to being stared at in public to being excluded from social circles. Imagine being treated like an outsider in a country that prides itself on its homogeneity. It's a reminder that even in a society that seems so polite and orderly, racism can lurk beneath the surface. Next up, we're heading to Malaysia, a vibrant country known for its stunning beaches, delicious food, and unfortunately a history of discrimination against black people. Now, Malaysia might be a melting pot of cultures, but black people, especially those from Africa, often find themselves facing prejudice and exclusion. We're talking about everything from being denied service in stores, to being harassed by the police, to being passed over for jobs. Imagine being told you're not welcome in a country that celebrates its diversity. It's a reminder that even in a place that seems so welcoming on the surface, racism can run deep. From Malaysia, we're jetting off to South Korea, the land of K-pop, kimchi, and sadly a growing problem with racism against black people. Now, South Korea might be a global trendsetter in music, fashion, and technology, but it's also a country where black people often face discrimination and prejudice. We're talking about everything from being stereotyped in the media to being denied opportunities in education and employment. Imagine being told you're not Korean enough to succeed in a country that's obsessed with its own identity. It's a reminder that even in a society that seems so modern and progressive, racism can still find a foothold. And finally, we arrive in Hungary, a country known for its thermal baths, its delicious goulash, and sadly, its increasingly hostile environment for black people. Now, Hungary might not have a large black population, but that hasn't stopped the rise of far-right nationalism and anti-immigrant sentiment. Black people, along with other minorities, have become targets of hate speech, discrimination, and even violence. Imagine being made to feel like a stranger in your own home simply because of the color of your skin. It's a stark reminder that even in the heart of Europe, racism is alive and well. So there you have it, folks. 10 countries, 10 different faces of racism, from the blatant to the subtle, from the systemic to the individual. Racism continues to plague our world, but recognizing the problem is just the first step. We need to talk about it, challenge it, and dismantle the systems that perpetuate it. Stand up for each other, amplify marginalized voices, and fight for a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect.